Yeah, thanks for being with us.
Andrea, how's the cat?
Oh, thank you for asking. The cat is very sick. We are trying our best. I'm like on pins and needles waiting for results and just to see if he eats anything. So we're trying our best to nurse him back to health, but I will keep everyone posted. I'm just not going to write too much yet because I don't want to get attached and then he has to, go elsewhere, i.e. cat heaven. Very sad.
I just got off the phone with Jennifer Johnston, so she was...
Yeah, she reached out to me. She's being everyone's being so loving. I honestly cried my eyes out just how beautiful people are yesterday, just being generous with their donations. So thanks for asking.
Is the cat with you at the moment, Andrea?
No, I'm doing way too many things in the next 48 hours for the cat to be with me. So my childhood friend is nursing him and syringe feeding him and giving him all his meds and stuff. And I'm going to see if I could pick him up tomorrow night after all of this great stuff that we're doing.
Yeah. Nice.
You'll hear all about it if we save his life. Might be silent for a little.
We're all rooting for him.
Thank you, Zia staff.
I'm here anytime.
Yes, you're always so helpful.
Hey Naledi, hey Robert, hey Jamie, hey Jordan, nice to meet you. Thanks for being with us. We're just gonna let people come in. Yeah. Hey Naledi, what's up? How's it going?
It's been so long since I've been on Zoom. I can't even remember. Hi everyone.
Hi. Nice to see your face.
Yeah.
We'll give it one more minute and listen to the rest of Andrea Ramolo's summer hit, Italian summer, because it was -3 today in Ottawa. Readjusting. And then you put your winter jacket on and you put too many layers underneath, and then you start walking and you start sweating. And you remember that it's finding that balance around this time of year.
And it's going to be 17 on Thursday.
Oh,
roller coaster. Ooh. That's life. I can't fade it out at the bridge, I gotta wait until after the bridge.
Then it's just gonna be you're so funny.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this Ottawa Music Industry Coalition, co-presented by Edwards Creative Law, Independent Music Business Session. Merci d'être là avec nous aujourd'hui. Si vous parlez seulement en français puis vous êtes déçus que la session se passe en anglais, s'il vous plaît, me laissez savoir, and I'll make sure that I translate some stuff for you. Puis on peut te laisser la prochaine fois. L'année prochaine, on va faire des sessions en français aussi. Alors, si c'est ça ton jam. My name is Melanie. I'm the executive director at the Ottawa Music Industry Coalition. I want to start by acknowledging the land and water and space around us on which most of us gather right now. Is the unceded, unsurrendered Anishinaabe Algonquin territory, otherwise known as Ottawa. I know people are tuning in from all over the place, and the land acknowledgement is more to me than just an honor of where you are, but it's an opportunity to pay respect if you are not Indigenous. To those on the front line who are working really hard and staying true to their culture and their calling to protect the land and water around us. And so I just encourage just all non-Indigenous people to take a moment and reflect. And for all the Indigenous folks that are tuning in, thank you very much for allowing us to gather here. And we won't let you down. And I say that with honesty and love in my heart. We are here today to talk about touring in Canada. We have some great panelists set up for you, some great people with lots of information for you. But before we get there, I would love to tell you about a couple of things that's happening with OMIC. If you don't know who we are, we're a nonprofit member-based organization. We are largely funded by the City of Ottawa. We do get funding from other private and public sponsors to run different programming. We do professional development like this. We also do community programming, concert series. We do private shows as well. And we do advocacy. So we make sure that Ottawa is a better place to interact with music. And our mandate is to embed music into the fabric of the city. And so we use Music City strategies to make sure that people see music as not only a cultural driver in within a municipality, but also an economic driver. And so we are both. We are here. We are, still dealing with the effects of the pandemic, and I think it's a really great opportunity for us to think about how we want to move forward as an industry. There are so many reasons why the music industry has not worked for us in the past, and specifically certain communities. And so what can we do to unravel that? And what can we build better from here on in? And can we take every model of everything right now and flip it upside down and have a look at it that way and keep everything fluid? So that's kind of the theme of my life right now. And I wanted to share that with you all. A few exciting things that are happening this month. November 15th, we have a member meetup, and it's a special one because we're announcing the showcasing artists for Jet Black Weekend. That's happening at Real House of Ensemble, 6 to 8 p.m. on November 15th. Jet Black Weekend is happening November 25th and 26th. That's in partnership with Double Experience, Colfax Rock, and with big thanks to Ontario Creates and the City of Ottawa. This is like our first, with me as the executive director, kind of mini conference. So it's a full day of panels and networking sessions and a reception and showcases and a show by Double Experience. So if you're interested in learning about how to promote your release online or sync licensing or how to build an online community, you can join us in person in Ottawa at SAW from 12 until 10 p.m. on November 26th. That's the OMIC takeover of Jet Black Weekend. So I am going to pass it on to a very good friend of mine who's also a badass musician and has been touring longer than anybody I know. Her name is Andrea Ramolo, and I will let you take the floor. Thank you for being here, everybody.
You're so good at introductions, Mel, and thank you for putting this together and having us. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Ramolo, and I'm happy to be at your service today for whatever questions you might have about this. I'll just give you a little bit of background on myself, and then I'm going to pass the wand, or whatever we want to call it, over to the other two powerful women that are joining me in facilitating this discussion today, because we're here to kind of understand the climate of touring as it is now post-pandemic, because it has changed. Our industry has shifted, right? So we want to talk about that, and we want to leave you with some tools and some confidence and, just a little kick in the butt if you need it to move forward with touring, or to help your artists grow and develop different markets and such. So I come from the more of the like adult alternative, more so now folk pop kind of world. I'm a songwriter. I started very late in life. I picked up a guitar when I was 23 to help me get through my mother's first bout of breast cancer. And it became a career very quickly after that. So I basically started writing songs and wanting to hit the road, to heal as a human being. And I think I started touring in 2007 with my first record. And I remember just sitting there, the internet was a thing where, there weren't a lot of websites. There were the yellow pages that would pop up, and you would look for venues, and you would take out an actual hard copy map of Canada, and you would start doing your routing that way. And then I would literally sit on the phone for 8 to 10 hours a day, calling bars, venues, community centers, anything I could think of, because I ended up living in my van for 3 years, booking about 150, sometimes 200 shows a year, depending on where we were going and whatnot, even small shows, large shows, festivals, stuff like that. So that's the background I come from. I've also had an agent, the lovely Stefanie Purificati, in a duo I was with Warner Music. And so we're going to talk about that as well, because that offers, it's a different sort of approach to booking, and obviously, you know, a great one because you have that extra help. And then we're going to also speak about being an independent artist today and how you can feasibly get on the road with yourself or your band and make that possible. So I'm here for any questions, and I know we might run out of time today. So I asked Mel if she would pass along my email address. And when I do have the time, I'll gladly get in touch with each of you one-on-one if you want to too. So I'm going to pass the baton over to, first, let's start with my lovely ex-agent, Stefanie Purificati, and my cat godmother. Go ahead, Steph.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? And thank you for the lovely intro, Andrea. I do enjoy anything I can do with you hanging out wise is cool. And we're going to see each other in real life in just a few hours. So my name is Stefanie Purificati. I'm an agent with APA. I've been a professional agent for over a decade now. I started my live career when I was 14 years old in Timmins, Ontario, working at clubs with my friend. Her older brother was the promoter in town. He brought all the shows to town. So he would bring us in to help him do the shows. And that was hilarious because I was 14 years old and working in bars in Timmins, which is just a whole vibe. Anyways, fast forward to my first job at the Drake Hotel as the in-house talent buyer there. And then I was hired at a company called the Agency Group, which doesn't exist anymore. But at the time, the Agency Group was the biggest boutique or independent music booking agency in the world. We were the only major agency that only did music. And in terms of major agencies in the world, that doesn't exist anymore. Everyone has TV, film, literary, everything else. The company I work for now is called APA. Again, same thing, just booking bands, touring across Canada, for private events, festivals, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've got a pretty diverse roster that I'm really proud of, that I've spent a lot of time working on, and I'm really happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Steph. Okay, we are going to go to the beautiful and talented Angelique Francis now. She's going to introduce herself. Go ahead, Angelique.
Thank you so much for that wonderful, warm welcome, Andrea. And it's so wonderful to be here with all of you and such a lovely panel full of amazing women industry professionals. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Angelique Francis, and I am a singer-songwriter, composer, multi-instrumentalist, and band leader of the international touring band, the Angelique Francis Band. And I've been touring for a long time, playing music festivals and venues across North America and Europe as well. And I'm a multi-genre artist, so I perform blues-influenced music, so soul, folk, funk, Americana, and everything that sort of falls under that umbrella. Some of my recent accomplishments this year are for the Maple Blues Awards, which public voting is open now, a Canadian Folk Music Award, and Folk Music Ontario Award. And I'm just really so glad to be here with everyone today.
Amazing. Thank you, Angelique. Was it a little bit choppy on your end, Kareem? Just checking in, or is that just my connection?
Yeah, it was a bit choppy for me too.
Okay. But congratulations on all those amazing nominations and accolades. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, busy year for you. Okay, so we are going to jump in. Again, we want this to be directed toward your needs for sure, but I will get the ball rolling. And then seriously, I know there's questions at the end, but if you do have a pressing issue and you know we're not going to have time to address it and you want to discuss that, just throw it into the chat and we'll have a little peek at it and see if we can address your questions or curiosities then. So we want to start by talking about, how do you start booking a tour? I'm gearing this toward independent artists right now that don't have agency representation, right? Okay. So what do you need to book a tour? Well, number one, you need music, you need art, you need a product, right? because if you don't have something to present to the venues that are booking, they're not able to decipher whether your music is fitting for their locale, right? For their club, for their bar, for their theater, whatnot. So you need a product, and you need that product to be a good quality product. So you start with that, right? What else do you need? You need to hire our really good friend, Jen Squires, who's an incredible music photographer. Most of you probably worked with her. She's one of my best friends. If not her, there are others, but I always, like to hype Jen up. She's fantastic, and she makes you feel comfortable in the front of the camera. You need some press shots. People want to see what you look like. Why? Because this is a very like in-person human job that we are like presenting ourselves as artists, as our whole selves. And that is our voice. That is our talent, right? That is our charm or our weirdness or whatever we have to offer as humans. But then that's also like who we are. They want to see, what kind of creative identity we bring to the table. And, maybe some venues, or for example, some festivals are not going to book 10, hopefully they're not going to book 10 male singer-songwriters. Hopefully they're going to book BIPOC artists and women, or female identifying non-binary artists, but that's another conversation, and we're going to go deep into that one day. But you need a package. So you need a package, and then you need to start putting together an idea of what markets suit you best. So Angelique was speaking about the fact that she's sort of a multi-genre artist. Angelique, I'm going to throw the ball to you right now, just because you mentioned that. And I want to know if, does that work to your benefit? Do you find that because you're not sort of set in one niche, that you have more option and variety to book different types of gigs? Talk about a little bit to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. I think there are many different ways that you can go about sort of fitting yourself within a certain kind of brand. And I think for what I do, there are some disadvantages and there's some advantages as well. But because I perform in so many different kinds of genre spaces, I find that I've been able to perform at a lot of different kind of venues, whether it's folk festivals, blues festivals, even hip hop festivals and jazz festivals and things like that. But because of that, I have to make sure that when I go to a festival, that whatever I'm showing on stage differs depending on what my audience is. And so I know that a lot of times people have, maybe if they're going to do tours on the festival circuit and have like a 1 hour show prepared, they'll mostly have like the same show for that year. I have to switch my show every performance to make sure that the different clientele that I'm catering to would be satisfied. But I also think there are some disadvantages, I think, when it comes to commercialization, because what I do is sort of outside of the norm of not just sitting in one genre base. People have a hard time placing me when it comes to like, if you want to like sell CDs of a certain kind of genre, mine is kind of multi-genred. And so if you're looking for a different kind of product that you can sell at shows, it's kind of hard to place that product versus others' product. And I know that when you're playing at venues that book certain kinds of acts, or festivals that book certain kind of acts, it's an advantage because you can fit with many different acts, but also a disadvantage because maybe you're not as similar as those other kinds of acts as well. So,
and will you differ? Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I'm
Do you differ? Like, will you sort of change or alter your booking package, your EPK? We're going to talk. I'm going to go to Steph after this because I want to ask her what she submits, what she sends out to book her artists, for example. And then I can share with you, indie artists, what I send out on my own. But Angelique, will you change? Like, for example, they want to hear some music. If you're playing a blues fest, you're going to probably choose your bluesier songs. And if you're, applying Calgary Folk or Winnipeg Folk Fest, you're going to choose your folkier songs to showcase, because sometimes they obviously don't have time to listen to our entire records, right?
Yes, of course. And most of the booking is done by my my father, actually, Kieran Francis. And so he'll send in different packages based off of what those different festivals are. But of course, we also have like, you know, a website where if people wanted to find different aspects of what we do, you can find the many different genres on what we display on our website as well.
Very cool. Okay, I'm gonna go to Steph because I'm also curious as to what Steph used to submit for me when I was with her and what she submits for her artists to land these gigs. Because maybe I'm not submitting the right things, and I'll tell you what I submit after, so that you know you'll realize that okay, there are many ways to do this, and there are many ways to land a gig, but what are the essentials? What are festivals and venues, theaters, soft theaters, concert clubs? What are they looking for? So Steph, what do you submit?
Well, in a perfect world, I have a few clients who are able to put together really beautiful looking one-page pitch sheets, right? With the picture, and here's all our social links, and here are the highlights, streaming numbers if they're really good. Here's some links to our performance videos. And when I get that and it's a nice, one-page document that looks really sharp, that's like amazing. But not everyone has the wherewithal to do something like that, right? You have to have really good graphic design skills or know someone who does. When I am, for example, when I have like a brand new artist who maybe takes me a lot of like education to introduce the artist to festival buyers and whatnot, it's as simple as a link to their socials. A lot of people, but what a lot of people really want to see, especially now, this is a relatively new thing just in the with YouTube and everything. People really want to see performance videos. People really want to see what the artist looks like on stage, what they perform like, in what format do they perform. So that has really taken the place of catchy music videos. Like, music videos are great, and if you have the wherewithal and the funding to do a really well produced music video, like, go for it. You can also do them on your iPhone for if you have like the skills. But my, like, what I'm able to do as an agent, and Andrea was the beneficiary of this for a while, is impart my passion for the artist, right? I can get on the phone and really explain like who this new artist is, why I'm so excited about it, why they're different, why the buyer, the promoter, the festival buyer should be excited about it. And then they get all ramped up and they're like, oh, cool, send me some links. And I just, throw some links into an email, and there you go. It's a lot of what I'm doing as an agent is continual pitching of my clients. And I'm able to, 95% of my, or not 95, I would say like 80% of my day is on the phone talking to people. So I'm really good at that. But yeah, I think if there's one thing you can have that is really important, it's a really great performance video. And if that's you and your band or whoever getting into a rehearsal space or something, and just taking the time to record a few of your songs as you would play them live in the format that you would play them live, like, that's, if you don't have streaming numbers, if you don't have really high followers on Instagram or whatever those impressive metrics look like, a really great performance video is like your best selling thing.
Absolutely. That's so helpful, Steph. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I probably would have forgotten, but that is the one key thing that people are wanting to see, because you can put together a great, even if you get factor funded, right? Like I did some great official music videos, but people that, let's say I'm applying to a new festival that's, emerged, or that somebody is a new artistic director, they've never worked with me. They're going to look at my official video and they're gonna be like, well, this is the recording from the studio. Like, can this person really sing? What does this person have soul and passion on stage? Do they fit in, sort of the vision that we have for this year's festival? Because people's visions are hopefully always changing and evolving, right? So live video and is it Naledi? Did I say that right? Naledi, yes. Thanks for that question, Naledi. A great question. For live performance videos, do folks want to see high quality videos or collections of maybe cell phone footage from shows? Steph, you kind of touched on that already. I would say if you could make the lighting pretty decent or moody at least, and the sound quality, sometimes when you're in your rehearsal space and the amp is, and the speakers are peaking and everything is just like full bore and it doesn't pick up a great quality of sound, you want to give them your best sound, right? Because you want to be booked. So if I would highly recommend, if you're just starting out touring, if you spend money and you only have a little bit to spend on something and you want to invest, I highly recommend even paying a couple $100s to some of these young, great upcoming filmmakers and do a proper live video. That's where I would put my money. I wouldn't put it into an official video at this point. And then, 1 or 2 live videos, and you can include that in your EPK, and that will help get you in the door, and that will help people, just get to know who you are. And maybe you're not a fit for this year, but maybe for next year. So that's great. These questions are really good because they're what you want to ask. So, and new iPhone microphones can sound great with the right person. It's true. With the right sound gear, as well as the right person, it's totally true. Okay. We can talk about a million things here. If you want to ask any questions now, just write in the chat and we'll jump and address those. So when I'm sending out packages, now I've been booking myself since the beginning, and then a little bit in the middle, I had help. And what I was going to say about what Steph was saying was, with an agent, the plus is that you don't have to talk about yourself, because who likes to try and sell themselves? It's hard for us artists to do that sometimes. Even me, I could talk for hours, but it's always awkward. It always feels weird because, can they take your word for it? It's you. You're talking about yourself and your art. Of course you want to be booked. You want the gig, right? So when you have somebody who's as respectable as Steph, she's working with a great list of clientele. These especially festival directors, and larger venues, they trust her. They trust her opinion. So they are going to actually consider her artist over, let's say, even me or Angelique. Well, Angelique, maybe your dad has a good rapport now with these people, but if an artist does it themselves, it's a little bit tougher. So I'm going to lay down the reality of the situation for you all, but that's not to say it's impossible. And also I would say that if you're just starting out, the venues that Steph and maybe me and Angelique right now are actually accessing wouldn't maybe be where you would want to start anyways, because you want to build your credentials, you want to get experience on the road, and you want to start building your market. So how do we build a market? Okay. We were having a little discussion about this yesterday before we jumped on here today. And Mel Brulé brought up a great point. Do you think it's a great idea for those of us starting out to just book a tour and try to do a cross Canada tour on your first stint on the road? That would, in this day and age, post-COVID, that would terrify me. I bought a van and I lived in it for 3 years in the back, and I never showered and fished for my food, and literally lived in the bush. And that's how I made it work for 3 years. And I had somebody do that with me, because I would have probably been terrified to live in the middle of the Yukon by myself in forested areas with wolverines. But that's a side note. I would start small, especially now that gas prices are what they are and everything seems way more unaffordable. Life is unaffordable, right? So where do you start? Well, that depends on your music. So you need to really know yourself as an artist. So Angelique, let's just take you for an example, okay? If you were starting out right now with the type of music that you're putting out there today, and you want to start small and build on a tinier market first, where do you think you would start? What you could choose, maybe a province or an area of a province. Where do you think you would sort of try to and tackle first?
I think I would actually start closer to home in Ontario, and I would start with a shorter length tour, maybe over a weekend, just to see how it went, where I can improve, what kind of challenges that I encountered, so that I could be more prepared for the next time that I plan to invest more into it. And I also think that by having shorter length tours, you help to build fan bases in certain areas. You help to build your presence in certain areas, so that the people who may have gone to see you will bring out more of their friends next time, and you can have an even bigger audience for the next time that you plan to go out there.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. Start small, weekend or 3. I'm not lying. I just did a maybe 6-week tour of Europe, and we're talking about Canada right now in the summer. But just recently in October, I just did a 3 or 4 day stint in the Ottawa area, like in Ontario, Quebec. Like it took me 4 or 5 hours to drive there. I was able to do it in a 3-4 day weekend. And then I could come home and do my other job, which, helps me pay my bills. Right. Because I still do that. And I have since the beginning. So weekends are great. Angelique, thank you for that recommendation. I would do the same as you right now. And that's what I did when I started out. I booked an Ontario tour. I went probably all the way up to Kenora, Wabigoon, like in the middle of nowhere. And I wouldn't recommend doing that right now. Steph, tell us give us some background information on that. Actually, Steph, what markets, because you see and you work with these markets all the time, what markets do you think are more easily accessible, perhaps for artists that are a little bit newer to the touring landscape?
Yeah, I think Angelique made a great point, and it's very much like I would have said the exact same thing. I think if you live in Ontario, the closer you can play to Toronto, the better. The reality of the Canadian music industry landscape is that most of the music infrastructure, the Canadian music infrastructure, works and lives in Toronto, right? So those are the people that you're going to want to be playing for. If you think of the population density between Quebec City and Windsor along that stretch of the 401, you can hit more people on that stretch than you're going to be able to hit going up to Vancouver, right? It's math. And then you can drive 8 hours and go to New York or Boston or whatever, right? I just want to echo what Angelique said about, the weekend blasts. We're no longer in a touring world where I approach if my clients want to hit the road, like this is how I approach them as well. It's like, you don't need to go and play Red Deer on a Monday. You can.
I've done that so many times. Red Deer on Monday.
We're really fortunate to live in this social media landscape now, where you can do a lot of your marketing from home. If you're good at social media, know how to work that, start locally, play in your hometown a bunch. If you don't live in Toronto, just try and come here and play here as frequently as you can. And again, I know that's not feasible for a lot of people if you don't live in town, but if you live in Ottawa, there's tons of places to play in Ottawa. Really get to know your hometown market and where you can play in those markets. And, I always tell developing artists when I sign them, because they're like, oh, like I'm playing Toronto too much. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, no one's ever heard of you. Like, you're not playing Toronto too much. Stop it. Like, just keep playing Toronto until people know who you are. And then when there's a demand for you, then you'll know when to sort of pull the reins back on playing. And you can hit so many great places. And again, there's all the college towns like on the 401, Guelph, London is a great market. Hamilton's a great market. Kingston's a great market. Ottawa's fantastic. Peterborough, weirdly enough, has like this weird little music scene. There's depending on the kind of music you play, you can do a lot in this area. If I know there's people from all over the country on this. If you live out in the West, try and arrange for a little run, like a little Calgary, Edmonton, maybe Red Deer. Sorry, like no shade to Red Deer. But you can get to Vancouver a lot easier from Calgary than you can from Toronto. You can hit Winnipeg a lot easier. Well, maybe not, but just think locally and how to utilize your social media to increase your influence outside of your locale so that you can go to those places and have an audience to play for.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steph. And I just want to just kind of address this because I don't know how many of you are from the Toronto area, but because me and Steph live in Toronto. Angelique, you don't live in Toronto, do you?
No, I'm based in Ottawa.
Okay, perfect. So you might feel the same about your city too. Sometimes it is like, okay, how many times can I get my friends to come out? When you're starting out, especially, and there's nobody else on the bill, it's like, how many times is my mom going to buy a ticket to my show, right? And like, you want to play for people, you want to play for new people, right? So as an indie artist, sometimes that gets a little bit tougher. Like when we did have agent representation, you're playing with different acts, and sometimes you're opening for really like bigger acts. And that is a gem right there. If there's any connection to any other musician or band that you have, that that you can nurture in an organic way, right? You don't want to be calling up bands and be like, hey, can I open for you? But sometimes when you're coming through, a city that's not your own, you can reach out. Like I had this month, I had like 4 people, 3 from the East Coast and 1 from the West, asked me if they're coming through on tour and they don't know where to play in Toronto, and can we organize a show together? For me at this point, it's just like, that's tough for me, but they're doing the right thing, because there might be somebody that is ready to play a show because they don't have one coming up, because again, you don't want to dilute your market as well. I'm going to address these 2 questions that I see in 1 second. I do want to say though that, these weekend blasts are an amazing start for sure. Beyond that, the second tour I ever did, instead of going west, because that's a big hunk of land, like that is gas, and that is overnight stays, and you need to know what your budget is. And that's another thing we're going to touch on after I address these 2 questions. Budget is huge, and you really need to be smart about it. The smarter you are in pre-planning your voyage, right, the better chance you will have a better tour. And that's like a spiritually better tour, a financially better tour. All of the things will fall in order if you do a proper budget for real. And that's something that I love to do. I don't know why most people hate doing budgets, but I love it. So I can give you some pointers. If you want to email me past this conversation, that's fine. I went to the East Coast. The East Coast was easier. So I did Ontario. Then I was like, okay, where can I go next? The East Coast. Now, sometimes the East Coast, they won't have the biggest guarantees for you, or you might have to invest a little bit in a show here or there, or you might, be playing for small crowds because you're just starting out. But the distance between the actual locations or the stops that you can feasibly book a show is they're way smaller. So you're spending less on gas. Okay. I don't know, for some reason, a lot of them put you up there. And that's something that Europe has, that we as a country, I'm going to tell you, touring in Canada, we really need to get better at that. Because unless you're playing like a really great concert series, where you have a great green room spread and you're getting a hotel room, or a festival that always usually puts up their artists at hotels, touring across Canada can really put you in the hole. And I don't want to, I want you to feel empowered when you leave this conversation to know how you don't get yourself in the hole. And that is by starting small, by having a vision, by knowing who you are as an artist, and by doing that budget and figuring out who you can bring on the road with you. I literally built like a drum. I'm an ex-tap dancer. I don't use this anymore, but I built a drum stage for my feet, because I could not afford to bring my drummer on the road anymore. And what that did was that changed my sound. And that was really a cool thing to add to the creativity of my solo show. And then I started hitting the road solo. So now, I'll do festivals with a big band, like with 5 or 6, but I will mostly tour the country solo or with a duo. And that's a personal choice based on the changing climate definitely post COVID or throughout COVID. But yeah, hit up the East Coast maybe next, find a few venues. You could even fly to Halifax. This is a great way to save money and time. Fly to Halifax. You can find some cheap flights on Red Tag. That's what I use. Not that I'm promoting a company right now. Whoops, am I allowed to say that? And rent a little car. Okay. And then you just get yourself around, and you could do even a weekend thing. You can go to PI on Thursday or Friday, somewhere in Halifax, maybe Antigonish, a few New Brunswick stops, and then you're back. And that was like a 5-day run, and you got to play for crowds in the Maritimes. And that's really, really great. So I'm just going to jump on this. This says, there are a few questions. What would you advise for artists looking to build into untapped markets? This is from Jordan. We've been taking an approach of just renting venues. That can get pricey, and self-presenting for our artists and inviting better known local acts onto the bills. Yeah, but that can get a little bit pricey and sometimes be a bad bet. Sorry, Jordan, can I just ask, if you don't mind, I'm unmuting or writing here if you don't feel comfortable talking. Are you a management company? I'm trying to find your face. Where are you, Jordan? Oh, there you are. Hi, Jordan. Okay.
Hey,
are you working with, like, are you management?
Yeah, I'm operating an independent label, and we do a lot of like artist development stuff. So as part of that, we're really trying to get more of our artists to kind of tour and go into different markets. We're kind of scattered all over. So we've been doing a lot of like trading shows, because we'll have like an artist in Nova Scotia and we'll have an artist in Hamilton, and we'll say like, why don't you guys kind of trade off to get some anchor dates going, and we'll self-present, because sometimes it sucks when you're trying to bring an artist from, you know, say Nova Scotia down to Ontario and they're like, we've never heard of this guy before. So a lot of the venues maybe don't want to take them on or present a show. So we kind of have to say, okay, thanks, and then go around them and rent something and then present that show and then try to build off of that. So I was really just kind of, I wanted to know your ideas on maybe how to get away from that, or maybe not necessarily get away from it, but make it less expensive or less of a gamble.
Well, yeah, that could get really pricey. You're courageous, and that's wonderful that you do that for your artists. I applaud you. I don't know. I feel like maybe Steph might have the tools to answer this best, possibly. If not, I will jump in, but I mean, like, what would you do if you're trying to break into new markets and you don't have a following? Would you focus on venues that provide a guarantee as opposed to booking soft seaters and stuff like that, Steph?
Yeah, of course. And if anyone's trying to address me directly on the chat, I have the most like bonkers MacGyvered setup for my phone. I actually can't see the chat because my phone is sitting in a cup of pens. So I apologize. So if you're asking me questions directly and I'm not responding, it's because I am just bad at this. Anyways, you know, I think presenting, like self-presenting, is super risky. I would not wish the job of a concert promoter on anyone. That's why I'm an agent and not a promoter. You know, I think you were asking that question, and the one thing that came to mind is like, you know, why are you trying to do this, right? Like, and that's more of like ask yourself why you're trying to break into these markets, right? Have you done enough work in your home market that you are and markets around you where that are easy to get to, that you're going to have more draw, that you have enough money in the bank to finance these, you know, these endeavors in other markets? You know, if there is, I work in a supply and demand job, right? For the most part, if there is a demand for my supply, I can supply it. Like, is there demand? You know, I understand the draw of like going and developing other markets, but if you don't have a means to do it without losing money, then try and figure out why you're doing that, why it's important, and putting some money in the bank to invest in it. Because, you know, I don't like it indie artists, you know, I know it's a tough gig. It's very expensive to be touring, but you know, you shouldn't be in a position where you're losing a ton of your own money on developing a market that you might not have to at that time. And sorry, like I hope I'm not coming off as too harsh. It's just
no, like, totally. Like I really appreciate it, because it's sort of, you struggle with this idea of needing more places to sell merch and albums and things like that, sort of to what Andrea was touching on before, where it's like, how many times can we play our hometown show and get that hometown crowd out and play for people who have already bought the new album, they've already bought the sweater, they've already bought, and it's like, you kind of need more places to set up shop after playing, so that you could be bringing in that kind of money too. So it's just,
so Jordan, if I may, I'll just tell you what I did. So I mean, I'm not making millions of dollars. I'm very honest about my career. I just, you know, I've been doing it for about on the road, I think since 2007. So however many years that is, 15 years. I basically would start playing, like I would hit the road because it was more feasible back then. But let's say you want to challenge yourself and go into new markets with your artists. They need to play smaller venues. So you need to find sometimes the bars, sometimes the pubs, because what's going to happen is, and this is what happened with me, you know, I'm not a pub, I'm a singer-songwriter. So like sometimes I was playing loud pubs where nobody listened, right? And it was just painful. But I did those gigs in the beginning. And you make a couple of fans that night, and then you come back and you play a different bar, or maybe you play, you know, you've befriended a local artist there because you've toured there a couple of times, and then you end up doing a double bill, and then their fans come, and then your fan base, it's like, this is grassroots touring, and this is the life, like this is where I come from. It takes a while, but it's so enjoyable. Like if your goal is to allow your artists to play music and make a living and have a great time doing it and grow, well, it's, they're not going to grow at an exponential rate, but they're going to be making fans, so that those same fans, when they end up playing the Rebecca Cohen or the In the Dead of Winter Music Fest, they're going to the same market they play like these little bars at,
Yeah.
And also the festivals will hire you more so if you say to Calgary folk, hey, I've been playing the Ironwood for 10 years, or, I played the Folk Club Songwriters Series, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember you. Or in Ottawa Blues Fest, I did blues in the schools where I taught children. I went around and I taught children about blues and folk music, right? And the artistic director, meets me, knows me, and you start to build like human relationships. So for me, it's like, I encourage like artists that are starting out or indie artists, like, don't be in a rush, have patience with yourself and just enjoy that journey, because one fan is better than no fans, and you're going to be able to return to that market. And that one fan's going to maybe bring like, I don't know, their friends and their mother or something. And that's how you grow. And that's how you go back. And maybe then you rent a theater with another artist. And I would team up in that situation. If you're going to be spending money, I would definitely put more than one artist of yours on the bill, so that it's actually valuable for two heads versus one.
Yeah. And generally we would, like, it's not big money, but it's trying to just rent places where you can. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Cool. I'm happy that that's helpful. Okay. This is for Steph Byron. What point, this is a great question. At what point should an artist reach out to an agent like yourself to attend a show, to check them out? And what in the artist's email will help to convince you to attend? This is a great question for Steph. I like this.
It's so freeing for me to be able to speak my mind on these things. Please don't reach out to agents or any other music industry professional until your show, people have told you that your show is good. And by people, I mean not your mom and your aunt and your sister, right? I get a lot of make sure you've played a bunch of shows, make sure that you are confident in the product that you're trying to sell, because for myself and a lot of other music industry professionals, our time, I'm so busy, it's bananas. You have literally one chance to make a good impression on me. And if I'm taking time out of my life to go see you play a show and it's not rehearsed, or it's not, it feels like you haven't put the thought into it, and it's, I'm going to be upset that, that feeling that, I've spent a night doing this and you weren't respecting my time enough to put on your best show. So please, by all means, make sure that you've done this bunch and you've at least, not saying it has to be a perfect, night or whatever, but, work out the kinks, make sure your guitar has enough strings on it. I don't know, whatever. And, I get a lot of cold pitches from artists, all the time. And, spell my name right, spell my name properly, do your freaking research. Know that my name is spelled with an F, not a PH, and my last name is Italian and maybe a little complicated. That's for anyone. Have the respect to at least know how to spell my name properly. Make your email very concise. When I open an email and it's 6 paragraphs and 18 links to different things, I literally get anxiety and close it and just move on to the next thing. Especially if I don't know who the email is coming from, right? A brief, hey, this is my band, this is what we're called, this is what we sound like, here are some videos, and personalize it. I get so many copy and paste emails, and that's also insulting too, right? Because I'm sorry, Norwegian death metal band, have you looked at my roster? I'm not going to book you in Canada because I don't book death metal. So there are people who do, and they make a lot of money doing it. I'm not one of those people. Do your research on my roster. Don't just copy and paste an email. Look on my roster and be like, oh, she booked so-and-so, I'd really love to play with them. Or, hey, I'm a big fan of this artist and I think you've done a great job. Flatter me a little. Keep it keep it concise and personal, and your greatest hits. Like, here's my 3 top songs. I'm playing in Toronto on this date. I've got you on the list. Don't make me be like RSVP to something. Don't send me a freaking event that I have to RSVP to. Sorry, I get really worked up when I talk about these things. Make it as easy for me as possible to enjoy your music and enjoy your show. And this goes for any other music industry professional. You're going to want to make it as barrier free as possible for us.
Okay. And do you want them to send you live videos or just music? Like,
yeah, I mean, if you've got a great live performance video, if you've taken my advice from 20 minutes ago and you've put together a great live performance video, yes, please send it over. Whatever is going to showcase you in the best possible light, because you have one chance to get people's attention in this industry, and make sure that you know what you're saying, or you have something good to present.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks, Steph. Okay, I'm going to jump on. Mel just mentioned a few things, just because I know we have 10 minutes. Like this, I'm not joking. This discussion can go on for 3 hours, because we haven't even touched like most of my notes. We've touched 2 points that I've written. So, and we're talking, and budget was a big one, but I do want to touch on what Mel just mentioned. So she asks, how valuable is social media and Spotify? How valuable is social media and Spotify Play? Okay. How valuable are those things when booking a tour? So that's a good question for all of us, I think. And then she mentions house concerts can be helpful in those situations as well. And I was going to mention this. So for those of you who have never done a house concert, I'm going to tell you that house concerts have become my bread and butter. Like, I cannot survive without them. And they're amazing for what I do, because it's so intimate. It depends on what music you play. If you're like Jane's Party, like a party dance band, and you're playing at like, a 70-year-old old lady's house, and they're not going to have a dance party, that's not the house concert for Jane's Party, right? But if you are a soulful or singer-songwriter, alternative, like it, and they're lucrative, they're beautiful, because that's how you build your side door access. Awesome, Tiffany, thank you. They help you build your fan base, and they're lucrative, so they don't put you in the hole, and you can find a lot of them in the vicinity of your hometown. Like, you really don't have to go far. They're also amazing fillers for tours. So when I'm on the road, and usually house concerts, I will say though, the only thing is that they only like to book usually, except for summers, Fridays, Saturdays, and maybe Sundays. So it is a weekend thing. So, sometimes the fillers that you need are really on the Mondays and Tuesdays, so you don't have to play the VAT in Red Deer. But sometimes you do that too. So house concerts are something that I think there used to be a website when I started, and I just Googled how to find them. And there was a database that somebody compiled on all the people running house concerts. That probably has changed since I looked, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, but ask around and Google, and I'm sure that you're going to find, even on artists' web pages, house concert in, I don't know, Napanee. Okay, you can even reach out to them, because some artists are really approachable. Yes, Steph?
Homeroots.ca. That's the website you're talking about.
Thank you, my love. That's perfect.
I put it in the chat, but I'm on my phone, so you guys know how to spell.
Well, Home Roots, you know what? Home Roots is an amazing. Oh yes, because they have the database of other house concerts. So Home Roots is actually an organization. I've done it twice. It sends you off sometimes in the middle of nowhere to remote communities that don't all often have access to music, and you get to play for even sometimes tiny crowds or very interesting crowds, and you get to sleep at the host's house, and it's a 2-week run, and they organize it for you. So that's actually a great way of getting started, because you don't even have to book it yourself. Okay. Concerts in your home is a decent one too. Website. Thank you, Rob. So people are sharing information. Make sure you check out the chat. Angelique, I wanted to ask you about affordability and about how, in this changing landscape post-COVID, you are making it work. What adjustments have you made, and are they working for you? And what adjustments or advice can you recommend to people that are either our level or just starting out?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that have become a lot more expensive on the road, especially since the amount that venues may be willing to pay, like if you have a guarantee, are relatively the same as they were before the pandemic, but now cost of living is higher, and so there are a few, sacrifices that you may have to make. I think it's actually for all artists who are living in Ottawa. Even though you may have to, like, you find yourself on different, like, performances in Toronto or things like that, having a home base that is sort of close to, like, different cities like Montreal and like Toronto and stuff like that, you'll find that there are some routes that are a lot cheaper, for example, and being able to, like, tour doesn't necessarily always mean that you have to sleep on the road. It could also be coming back home and driving out from different places so that at least you don't have to pay for food, accommodation. Sometimes you may need to limit the number of people that you bring on the road, as well as making sure that, as you said with budget, that you only go for opportunities that you may be able to make money on, or at least break even while you're still building your markets.
Absolutely. And I like that you said that, or break even, because if you're starting out, like anything, like any good career, small business, right? You are investing, and it is a lot of an investment at the start for sure, until you start to see that come back to you. And actually, Angelique, yesterday we were chatting and she mentioned a great thing that, for example, if you're flying out to some place, right? Check to see where the music stores are, where are the Long and McQuaid's in that city or town or nearby, because sometimes it's way cheaper to rent a guitar than to, I know you, and I mean, for me, like, I play a baritone guitar, which is an electric, and like, it's hard to find those everywhere. So I would need to fly out with mine. But, if I don't know, most places have backline, but if you need specific things and they're heavy and they cost you $100 each way on that flight, because you're flying over, you could save $200 and you could budget. And that's what I wanted to really get into. But of course, we have 3 minutes left, so we're not going to be able to today. But budget is so important. And what goes into a budget, I just want to, like, run these things down just off the top of my head. And if Angelique or Steph, if you can just, throw in whatever you think as well. So you're paying for a rehearsal space. Well, first of all, you're paying for your product. You're paying for your record or your EP, right? And you're paying for press photos. You're paying for a website. You need a website. I know, a lot of people sometimes just use their social media sites. You need a home base that looks professional, right? Absolutely. You need social media. You do. As much as some of us hate it and some of us don't. Like, I love Instagram. It was like, yes, photos every day, all day of my cat. Amazing. But you need those things, and you need to build those things. So connect with your audiences. Then you need a rehearsal space, because you need to pay your musicians to learn your stuff. You need to pay for the space, and then you need to bring everybody on the road. So you need accommodations. And yes, you can all sleep on, Mitch's couch in Kenora, Ontario, but that's maybe going to fly when you're starting out or when you're young and you don't have a bad back. When you're in your 40s, there's no way I'm sleeping on anybody's couch anymore, ever again, because, you want to be on your A game when you're playing and presenting these shows. So you want to be well rested. You want to have a shower. You want to be comfortable, and you want to give them the best show of their life. And in order to do that, you need a bed, you need somewhere to stay. So those are just, and then there's the gas. There's the car insurance if you're using your own car. There's a rental car if you're not, right? There's instrument insurance that is, I would highly recommend it to get it, because I had my Gibson guitar get stolen from me at Dauphin Country Fest, and it was the most heartbreaking thing. That was my only tool. So, and I worked really hard for years to try to save up for that guitar. So these are just things to consider. I'm going to stop blabbing because Mel has shown her beautiful face again, which means she's going to talk. Hi, Mel.
No, you guys are doing such a great job. I feel like there's a lot, like you said, there's so much that we can talk about. And I'd love to see if either or any of you are available in the new year to do maybe other series and talk about booking Europe and talk about booking Australia and talk about booking the US. But I think there were so much great information that came out here. And I do agree that, like, knowing what your, in French we say your point mort, like where you need to break even on your budget is really important when you start out, because the worst thing you can do is get yourself into debt and then start resenting the job that you have. So yeah, I highly recommend having a good idea of what your budget is and where to invest there.
Cool. Do we have time to answer some of these questions? I can run through them really quick.
Yeah, I think we've got another like 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. These are easy ones too. So for house concerts, do you have a tip jar? Do you sell tickets at the door or charge the host if not your home? Usually it's not your home, but if you have a nice home and you really want to invite sometimes strange fans into your home, that's your prerogative. But I'll leave that to you because you can use your own discretion. However, usually house concerts, like I just played a house concert the other day, they charged $50 a ticket. So house concerts can be really nice money. Okay. I don't play shows for $50 a ticket in Toronto, but at house concerts, right? But the host will usually take care of that, or there's an entranceway and they organize that all because they've done this before. If you want to talk about organizing your own house concert, that's a different thing. And I'm happy to share with you what you could do. Because Mel and I, we used to have a women's collective that we started, and we used to put on shows in lofts and at venues. And so there's a variety of things that you can do there. But yes, make sure you get paid. Usually it's per head. And usually the guests are so happy that they're in this intimate setting and they get to hear your stories and they get to meet you and eat snacks with you, that they all buy your CD and you go home and you can pay your rent for the month. And it's like the most amazing feeling. So there's some recommendations here. Just have a look because there's some recommendations on web building, heavyzeb.com. So check them out. Thanks for sharing that. Steve Gardner has a great point as well. And we didn't even get to talking about grants, which is a big one. And we're all very familiar with those grants because as Canadians, we are so lucky that we have access to them, because I know a lot of my European friends do not, and my US friends do not. But grant writing is a certain type of skill too, and that's a whole other conversation. There are touring grants. Check out Canada Arts Council, check out Ontario Arts Council. I think TAC also has some. And if you're lucky enough to get a factor funded something in your lifetime, you can access a lot of touring money there as well. Then there's also Star Maker. And whoa, Star Maker was like a dream come true. Steph, you were booking us when we had Star Maker, because when you sell a certain number of CDs, you qualify for this thing called Star Maker, and you have to put together like a huge application to get it. But you are getting, Star Maker is basically helping to support your career and giving you extra money per show that you play. So, it's really wonderful. So that's something later on, once you build your markets, that you can access. Everyone's saying thank you. Lots of basements in Ottawa. Yeah, you can do a basement thing. Heritage Canada can also be a good granting source. Thanks, Rob. I actually don't even know about that one. I'm going to write that down. Okay. Angelique, did you want to add anything else in the last couple of minutes that you think we talked about yesterday and maybe for sure we missed today because we just rambled on?
I'm not sure. I know there was a lot that you wanted to talk about via the budget, but I know there's a whole other topic in and of itself. And I think one of the grants available that may be of use, I think there is a Ottawa culture grants, I think, and depending on what your project may be, I think they also may support touring if that's what you're interested in doing with that grant. But I know it has a lot of other things as well. And yeah.
Awesome. And in terms of just budgeting too, I'm going to just mention routing is very important. And now we have this thing called like Google Maps, whereas when I was starting to book tours, I believe there was no Google Maps because I would have used it. So I had to it was just a nightmare. Like imagine the maps I had. I wish I could show you the paperwork. I obviously have recycled it, but routing is important because you can save money if you route properly. But if you're going from Thunder Bay to Winnipeg in one day, first of all, good luck making that in the winter because it's been close calls sometimes. But also, you want to give yourselves rest. You want it to be safe because being on the road is dangerous, like you're behind the wheel. So, and give yourself between I would say 2 to 5 hours maximum for a drive. And that's why Europe, if we ever have one of these for Europe is real good, because you can travel an hour and you're in a totally different place with a different market because there's so many more people there, right? Thank you all for your time. When are our next shows, Angelique and Andrea, who's that? And Stephanie, who should we check out? So, Angelique, when's your next show anywhere?
My next show is this Saturday at Music at Mill Road in Chelsea, Quebec. So that's about 45 minutes out of Ottawa. And I'm also playing. It's not my next gig, but I'm also playing the Women's Blues Review at Massey Hall for those of you who happen to be in Toronto. So I hope I could meet you all in person someday.
That's awesome. When is that, Angelique? Again?
That's November 25th, I believe.
Very cool.
That's okay. A Friday. Yeah.
That's great. And I actually just played a nice sold out house concert on Saturday. And then my next gig actually isn't until January. I'm playing the Elma Combo for one of their Unplugged North events, which is hosted by Sarah. Yeah. So that'll be fun. And some festivals are coming in for the summer. And I know definitely who people should check out, Steph, based on where we're going to. Why don't you throw a couple of artists their way?
Yeah, so Andrew and I are going to see my hot young client, Asanabi, who is sort of having a bit of a stellar rise right now. It's very exciting. He's playing at the Rivoli tonight, and he's it's crazy what's going on with him right now. It's so much fun. I also work with a rock band, Sky Wallace, is the lead singer of this rock band. She's amazing. She's on the road right now, having a blast. Digging Roots is another band that I work with, who you guys are probably familiar with. It's very exciting. If you're into the art of drag, I work with Tainomi Banks, who is one of Canada's preeminent superstar drag queens, and it's been so much fun working in drag. Not me, I don't dress in drag, but she does. I don't work in drag. And I mean, God, it's like asking me to choose my favorite kid. I get all nervous. Lots of cool stuff.
Amazing. Yeah. And Isanabe, Evan, is incredible. What a voice. So yeah, I haven't been to a concert in a while, so I'm so excited.
He's playing with a full band tonight, yo. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna miss the opener because I'm having a quick dinner party after we get off here. But you're also like beautiful and brave for also attending this and still, keeping the hope alive that we are going to get through this tough time post-COVID. I think we really are. And finding ways to make it work even with the climate that we're dealing with right now, because it's still possible. We just have to sort of make a few adjustments and just, keep on plowing ahead. And yeah, thank you for joining us. Mel, feel free to pass along my email address to anyone who has extra questions. And Mel, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll close it out and just thank you so much, all three of you, for sharing all of your experience. One of the most important things I think about touring is that community connection, right? And so feel free to look. Everybody can just kind of look around the room here and see who these names are, and look folks up afterwards, because this is kind of what we're here for. We're here to connect as a community. There's a few names that I don't recognize, so I would love to keep in touch with all of you. We're the Ottawa Music Industry Coalition. You can reach me at melanie@ottawamike.com. You can also sign up to our newsletter, which has ongoing grant deadlines, not just for Ottawa residents, and other professional development sessions like this that happen either online or in person. Sometimes there's job opportunities, there's performance opportunities and programming opportunities, not just for Ottawa artists, but for touring artists as well. So we're really here to help support your career in music. And we want to make Ottawa a viable tour stop between Toronto and Montreal, so people stop skipping us. So yeah, that's what we're here for, and we're here to connect you with our local community and local openers. I also have a really magical spreadsheet that could be useful for artists, with some contacts for venues and accessibility and capacity and some media. So yeah, but you have to connect with us on a personal level to get that because it doesn't live anywhere on the internet. And yeah, come and join us again. Come to our member meetup on November 15th. So many thanks to Kareem for helping organize all of this, and Elia Kim. Any final words, Kareem?
Have a great night.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Stefanie. Thank you, and Angelique. Thank you, Andrea. And we'll see you for the next time we have an IMB very soon. Stay
For
tuned.
sure. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Have a good
everyone.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks so much, everyone.